We have one more highlight for you, one I've been looking forward to for quite some time. He is none other than the greatest chess player of all time, a world champion for an impressive 20 consecutive years, and now a very prominent human rights advocate and the chair of Renew Democracy, where he fights for the preservation of freedom and democracy worldwide. Please welcome Garry Kasparov. It's good to have you. It's great to have you here with us, Garry. We were both actually on stage together at the Munich Security Conference when the tragic death of Alexei Navalny was announced. As somebody who has been speaking out against President Putin for many, many years, what message, what advice do you perhaps have for Yulia Navalnaya as she embarks on this new role?
Alexei Navalny has not died, he was murdered. It's very important to understand. And I don't think it was a coincidence that he was murdered on the day of the opening of Munich Security Conference. People say, oh, things happen, but it's nothing, happens of that magnitude, without a straight order from Kremlin. And Alexei Navalny's life and death was in hands of Vladimir Putin. Of course, if he, just imagine, died out of a heart attack or a disease, they could keep this news in secret for as many days as they wanted. Don't forget, Navalny was sent to a penal colony above Arctic Circle, this far north. And they could easily hide it for 3, 4, 5 days. They announced it instantly. So that means it was a plan. And basically the message was, I don't want to say it, that's a message to the world. I do whatever I can, anytime I want, and okay, show me. We do remember what President Biden said, that, oh, if anything happens with Alexei Navalny, there will be a dire, or I don't know what kind of adjective he used, for Russia. Dire consequences, Putin will pay. So nothing happened. And I think that was a message of strength from Putin. Also, he's testing the water. So what else he can do? And it did work, tragically. And it's not coincidental that the number of political prisoners, as Yulia Navalny just said, is increasing in Russia every day. So, by the way, they don't even just pretend that they play the fair game. Since I don't recognize the legitimacy of Putin regime and I don't receive the letters from their courts, I don't know how many criminal cases I already have against me. I'm a terrorist. I'm an extremist. I have 2 orders of my arrest. So and many of us, in Russian opposition now abroad, it's a bad taste if you are not arrested in absentia, or you don't have a criminal case against you. That people look at you with suspicion. Yeah, but they use the same language. It's terrorist, extremist. They do terrorism, and it's it's all nice to talk about global cooperation, mutual respect, but we have war against our world, against the free world. And Vladimir Putin is a spearhead of this war. And you look around the globe and you always find Putin's fingerprints, whether it's Maduro, whether it's North Korea, whether it's Iran, Vladimir Putin is everywhere. And unless we recognize that the war in Ukraine is the most important, but still one of the many elements of this global war against the free world, we will not do what Yulia Navalny just said. Again, as a chess player, I appreciate very much the divisions between tactics and strategy. So we did a strategy not just for Russia, not just for Ukraine, strategy to win this war. And so far, I don't hear the voices from the leadership of the free world to build the strategy and then to show determination and resolve to carry it through.
And indeed, you told me back in Munich, and I wrote it down, the fight against authoritarianism is like a game of chess. It's black or white. But this is not like chess, you said. There's no draw. You win or you lose. And you said Russia must lose, otherwise it won't stop at Ukraine.
Yeah,
This was your message.
exactly. But it's not, Garry Kasparov is trying to tell you that Putin's goal was and is to destroy Ukraine. Vladimir Putin keeps repeating it. His propaganda keeps saying it for 24/7. When people say, oh, let's negotiate. Negotiate what? Putin's goal was, as it is, to eliminate Ukraine, to destroy it, to destroy Ukraine's statehood, and to demonstrate that he's above not only just Russian law, but above international law. And unfortunately, again, the fact is that we're at war has not been recognized from our side. So Yulia Navalny complained about lack of strategy, and the fact is that there are sanctions imposed on Russia. But when you look at the Russian trade, the Russian import, I would say it's the same. But all of a sudden, when Germany cuts its export to Russia by 10 times, all of a sudden the German export to Kyrgyzstan or Kazakhstan rose 10 times. So is there any connection? So it's even the countries that have a strongest pro-Ukrainian position, countries like Estonia or Finland, they cannot stop their businesses doing, business with Russia via third countries because there's no declaration of war, not even recognition of the fact that we are at war. I mean, after Navalny was killed, or in many just recent tragic events, the bombings of Ukrainian facilities, civil infrastructure, no country recalled the ambassador. It's from Putin's perspective, he can move even further and further and further without any consequences.
And so we just heard four Western leaders here on the stage commit their steadfast support to Ukraine. But from what I'm gathering, you find it all insufficient.
Yeah, because it's again, going back to what was said by Yulia about strategy. Strategy means you decide what is the final goal. For me, the goal is Ukraine must win. And this win must include full liberation of Ukrainian lands up to Sevastopol, reparations to be paid for the damages, and war criminals to be brought to justice. And what we're hearing instead, we will stand with Ukraine as long as it takes. Takes what? To make a deal with Putin? Or we'll stand as long as, just we're watching Putin erasing Ukraine from the map? Again, it's very ambiguous, if not dubious. And again, dictators, they're always sensitive to respond to the messages. So far, Putin sees no resolve, no political will from America, from Europe, to take what it takes to win the war. And that's why we see all these restrictions. Ukraine is being killed. Ukraine's children are just being attacked, again, intentionally, from the airports that are being protected by Americans. President Biden protects Russian airfields that are being used to kill Ukrainians. Everybody can see it. So does it make him an accomplice in crime against humanity?
So clearly, the message you are sharing here today is a very strong one. And you said a change of regime in Russia will only come with the victory of Ukraine. There are some people who say, be careful what you wish for, because whatever comes after Putin might even be worse. Is that a thought that I get the answer?
Can you imagine? This is Roosevelt and Churchill debating what will happen after Hitler in Germany.
Yeah.
So look, nothing could be worse than Putin.
So those people.
Again, one thing is clear: Putin goes down. We can discuss the scenarios. There will be no democracy next day. Actually, from the collapse of the regime to a first democratic elections in Russia, it may take 2, 3, 4 years because everything is destroyed. No law, no constitution, court system. It has to be rebuilt. It's a very painful process. Again, it will be done, but it's very important for Russians to understand, for ordinary Russians, that the empire is dead. You have to kill the virus, imperial virus, in the minds of many Russians. And the only way to do it is to see Ukrainian flag in Sevastopol. Anything short of that will not convince Russians that our country, my country, has a very simple alternative. Either to go back to Europe, to paying the price, retreating from Ukraine, paying reparations and sending war criminals to Hague, or to become a Chinese satellite. I mean, let's not forget. It's all nice to talk about Russian territorial integrity. China is the only country that has a massive territorial claim to Russia. Nearly 1.5 million square kilometers of Russian land is being questioned by China, and it's the entire territory from Vladivostok to Lake Baikal. Based on the old treaties, the Russian Empire took the land from China. It's history. But the fact is, China is watching this war with great pleasure. Because the war weakens Russia, the war weakens the free world. Nobody pays attention to Chinese build-up, to genocide against Uyghurs, for instance, that has been committed, and potential acquisition of attack on Taiwan. So again, China has a plan, Putin has a plan, we don't have a plan. So that's exactly going back to what Yulia said. Let's agree on the plan, but the moment you say regime change, you're ostracized in Washington and Berlin. They are afraid to hear these words.
So clearly it's a theory that you don't subscribe to. Now, your message here today is very clear. Russia must lose this war.
Putin must lose the war.
Yes.
Putin regime must lose the war.
Yes, but if Ukraine doesn't defeat Russia, your claim and your theory is Putin won't stop there. Then it's going to be Moldova, look, the Baltic states.
It's not. No, look. It's the. Let's not prejudge, because Putin is not. He's crazy, but he's not stupid. Let's give him credit. He's in power for 25 years. People say, "Oh, he made a mistake. What a stupid decision." I mean, people who told about it, Obama and others, where are they? And Putin is still there, by the way. So if the guy stays in power for 25 years, probably we should give him credit. He knows what he's doing, even if he's committing crimes. So how can we stop it? Again, we have to recognize his strengths and weaknesses. He will not, I think, risk an open confrontation with NATO. He doesn't have to. Why? It's a hybrid war. Don't forget, he's a KGB guy. How about destroying us from within? Did you see the result of the elections in Germany yesterday? Hello? This is who has been paying these parties? All of a sudden, you see the system being besieged. This is the most dangerous threat for democracy. Is not rise of far right or far left. It's democracy can withstand the attack, frontal assault. It dies when it's being besieged. I remind people that Hitler never won elections in Germany. His best result was 37% in 1932. Communists made 16 at the same elections, which means more than half of Germans rejected democracy. Now we see that in some German lands, far right and far left is already just, at crossing 50% more. That's a really bad sign. Who is banking them? So when you look at American elections, Vladimir Putin knows that there are many ways of weakening our resolve and working from within. Ukraine is a symbolic demonstration of his strengths and our weakness. So he may do something in Moldova, he may do something maybe in the Baltics, but again, I think it will be short of the direct military confrontation, because he understands. So the combined strengths of the eastern flank of NATO, I'm not talking about America, eastern flank of NATO, Poland, Baltic nations, Sweden and Finland, is more than enough to destroy Putin. It's not Russian tanks will be in Tallinn in 3 days. I think Estonians will drink beer in St. Petersburg in 3 days. So that's why prepare for many more complicated attacks. Again, he already saw how savvy he is by playing various cards.
You're, of course, a very brilliant analyzer of both Russia and Putin. In your book in 2015, Winter is Coming, you warned that the West's inaction to Russia's 2014 invasion of Ukraine would only embolden Putin. You turned out to be correct, of course. If you were to write an updated version, if you will, of that book today, what would be your new warnings or predictions?
Winter is here. And again, we need a plan just to make spring come at one point. Look, first we recognize as a global war. And it's not surprising, who is helping Russia? Okay, China is just behind the curtain, but North Korea and Iran. And is it a shame that North Korea gave more ammunition to Russia than Germany to Ukraine? Just think this for a second. So look at what Maduro is doing there. I mean, by the way, Republic of Georgia was mentioned just at the stage. But look what's happening in Georgia. It's de facto dictator Bidzina Ivanishvili, former Russian oligarchs. We know that all former Russian oligarchs. So working with Moscow, and they're already threatening to destroy the opposition. What will prevent him after losing elections? He's going to lose elections in October to do what Maduro did in Venezuela. But unlike Maduro, he has Russians nearby. So it's a plan, it's already long overdue. So we need a strategy to understand, again, in this battle, there will be no draw. And also, let's start working with people who want to be free. I mean, yeah, we can talk about, crisis all over the place, but I mean, look at what Russians and Chinese doing in Africa. Country after country, it's accidentally became a victim of a new coup. And you see that as the crawling, by taking over resources of the black continent. simple, we are, it's not the last line of defense, but historically, we knew that unless we had a plan, whether this is, I always remind people that in 1943, in Casablanca in January, Roosevelt and Churchill sat together and declared that the goal was unconditional surrender of Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan. And that was in January 1943. I mean, the war was far from over. Even Italy was still in the war, and German troops were standing on the banks of Volga and all the way to Atlantic. Japan was still running, strong. Unconditional surrender. Just to leave no doubts about the intentions. We have to say that regime change in Russia, in Iran. By the way, we talked a lot about gender inequality. Do you want to work with Taliban? By the way, I fully agree with the idea of justice and equality, but I don't want to have mutual respect for Taliban, Iranian mullahs, and other criminals who are just ignoring all the values that we hold dear to us. So let's come with a plan. We have so many countries that are sharing these values, so many people. Let's have a plan because we're stronger. We have economic power, we have military power, we have historical truth on our side. We think about the future. These people going to the past. Let's come up with a new system that will help us to secure the future.
A new system, a new plan is needed. Winter is coming was the title of your book, 2015. Winter is already here. Is probably going to be the one to be published soon. Now, we've had Alexei Navalny, of course, talk about him a lot here today, and it's very clear based on his experience, but also Boris Nemtsov's, that Putin's critics live very dangerously. You, as you pointed out yourself, you are on Russia's terror list. You've been declared an enemy of the state, a wanted man.
Yeah, by the way, my name was erased from Russian chess history. So yeah, that's
well,
it happens, So that's like it's a cherry at the top of the pie. So
well, we remember you very vividly. That's for certain.
Many people in Russia do. That's why I received messages about another celebration, 100 years of Russian Chess Federation, and somehow one world champion disappeared from from the photo stand.
Well, only temporarily, hope so. But the question I wanted to ask is, speaking about Boris Nemtsov, speaking about Alexei Navalny, how concerned are you yourself? You live in New York City these days. How concerned are you about your own safety? You're a very outspoken critic.
So, am I concerned? Yes. Would it help? No. So, this again, I know that I have to limit the number of countries I visit. So, because I wouldn't go to Hungary. So, I have many friends there, but for obvious reasons, I wouldn't go there. I wouldn't go to Turkey. And probably some other. I wouldn't go to Vienna, for instance. So again, this is places, cities, and countries where Russian security operates without impunity, with impunity. So again, I understand that there's always price to pay, but you just mentioned them. You mentioned two great heroes by my dear friends. They have been killed. So how can I behave otherwise?
Yeah. We're almost out of time, but. I want to ask you a personal question. Your mother passed in 2020, and you weren't able to attend her funeral in Moscow due to the risks of being
There's no risk means it's uncertainty. For me, going back to Russia, it's
due to the certainty of you being detained, and then God knows what. You are 61 years old now.
Yeah, I am.
Do you still hope to return to a democratic Russia one day?
Yes, absolutely.
How realistic do you think it is?
Look, I'm 61, you said, so and I'm in reasonably good health. Yeah. So look, it's the regimes like Putin's, they look strong, but there's the day comes, it's on Sunday it's all rosy, but on Monday something can happen. I believe that Russia has a future. Again, I'm not so sure about the Russia in its current geographical borders. I'm slightly here. I can differ from you, Leah. I believe it's for people in Russia to decide. So for me, what's important is it's not just democratic Russia. Russia that will abandon its imperial conquest and imperial history. Russia that will, become a national state, in a good sense, national state. So state that will embrace different people. I'm half Armenian, half Jewish. My native language is Russian. I was born in Azerbaijan, for instance. So but I belong to Russia. So, and I think, I also hope that while my 8-year-old daughter visited Russia, but my 9-year-old son never been there. So born in New York. So I think it's actually realistic. It's realistic because, look, I also believe in human progress. It just says, and our progress means that we have to resolve some biggest challenges. And I think that's unless Russia moves from being a permanent problem into the part of the solution, many of the problems we are discussing here will not be solved. So that's why I hope that I will come back and will make my contribution to change things in my country and eventually for the rest of the world.
Well, suffice to say, it's been a privilege and pleasure having you here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much to, as far as we're concerned, the greatest chess player of all time and an international...
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Garry Kasparov. Great. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I think after so much powerful speeches and food for thought, we have all deserved the 10-minute break. Thank you so much for your attention.